celebrating 48 years on the air. Award-winning Farm Week is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.
Today on Farm Week, an update on the tariff situation, the U.S. and China in a seesaw trade battle. Plus, this on the radar again, they call it the death tax, and it's a huge downside for farmers. In Southern gardening, Eddie says they're beautiful in every season. He's in Vicksburg with prime examples. And finally, go deep-sea diving with Farm Week at the Mississippi Aquarium. Farm Week starts right now.
Hello everyone, I'm Zach Ashmore.
And I'm Mike Russell. Thanks for joining us again here on Farm Week. Time for another tariff update, especially as the U.S. and China flex their trade muscles back and forth in a seesaw battle for leverage. You should know, if you don't already, that China is roughly the same size physically as the U.S., but with 4 times the people, which is why that country could be a great trading partner if the politics can be ironed out. In fact, the two superpowers might just be perfect trading partners if they can make or supply what the other can't and back off on the rest. Anyway, with all that said, right now President Trump continues to negotiate and tariffs are still playing a role, especially where China is concerned. David Miller from our news partner Market to Market has more.
After tacking a 50% tariff on all steel and aluminum imports midweek, President Donald Trump had a phone call with Chinese leader Xi Jinping, the first since returning to office.
I think we're in very good shape with China and the trade deal. We have a deal with China, as you know, but we were straightening out some of the points.
The current trade tiff between the two economic superpowers focuses on America's need for rare earth minerals and the Chinese government's objections to U.S. restrictions on the sale of advanced computer chips and the curtailment of access to student visas. Trump has said that he likes Xi, but called him a tough negotiator. Trump has lowered the 145% tariffs on Chinese goods to 30% for 90 days to allow for talks. In turn, China reduced its taxes on U.S. goods from 125% to 10%. The back and forth has made for sharp swings in global stock markets, and many believe it threatens trade between the two countries. The president says there will be trade talks soon, but it was unclear when top Chinese and U.S. negotiators will come to the table. Tariffs are paid by the companies that are importing goods, and the costs are usually passed on to consumers.
That last line of David's story, tariffs are paid by the companies that are importing goods and the costs are usually passed on to consumers, is technically true, but it's not always the case. In any event, tariffs go back pretty much to the beginning of U.S. history. In fact, according to Imprimis magazine, published by Hillsdale College in Michigan, by 1792, just 3 years after the U.S. Constitution took effect, government revenues were just under $11 million. 90% of that came from tariffs. And by the way, just prior to this show, President Trump announced a new trade deal with China, who will supply rare earth material up front in the deal. The U.S. will receive 55% tariffs from China while paying 10%. The deal is still subject to final approval.
A few days ago, senators held a hearing, The Aging Farm Workforce, America's Vanishing Family Farms. The age of our country's workforce is rising as older employees approach and pass the traditional retirement age. The worry over replacing that worker, especially on the farm, is becoming a concern. That Senate committee hearing put the issue in the spotlight. Peter Tubbs reports.
The Senate Special Committee on Aging heard testimony on the challenges facing aging farmers. Witnesses stressed that both the estate tax and profitability are hurdles to bringing a new generation to the farm.
As long as I've been up here, I've been advocating to permanently repeal the federal estate tax, which is often called the death tax. I know it means a lot to farmers. So, Mr. Locker, we'll start with you. Your thoughts?
Well, Senator, I think obviously you look at modern agriculture today, I mean, it is a massive investment. even small farms. I mean, if you add up all the assets. And so anytime that you want to pass that along to the next generation, comes at a significant cost and is in many cases cost prohibitive. And so, yeah, doing away with the death tax. And I think we get bottled in with other businesses, and it's couldn't be farther from the truth in terms of comparable, that when you're passing along a farm business, it comes with a lot of cost, a lot of assets. It takes a lot to run a farm today. And so doing away with the death tax is the right thing to do, to be able to continue to pass it down to the next generation. Otherwise, it becomes cost prohibitive.
Would you say that the tariffs and the uncertainty that's been created around the tariffs has made it worse, tougher for even tougher in a tough business?
I think in the short term, it has not really affected them yet. But when we get to this fall and they start selling their commodities, and if we don't have solutions to the tariff war, then we will have lost some markets that we have depended on for years. And then we'll start seeing the crisis hit.
Mexico was coming after Florida tomato farmers right after NAFTA. Well, 20 years later, they're growing pepper and squash and corn and beans and every vegetable we grow all the way up the East Coast, all the way to Jersey and past. They're going to be competing with all of them, Mexico, with all those products. And their labor is, I don't know, what are they paying, $10 a day, and we're paying $25 an hour? There's got to be some help with the balance of trade. We don't want the government to give us anything, but get us on a level playing field with Mexico and Canada.
Rick Scott, the senior senator from the state of Florida and chairman of that committee, wrote in his opening statement that American farmers are the nation's oldest workforce, averaging 58 years old. 1/3 of farmers and ranchers are over the age of 65.
On the lighter side, in this week's Southern Gardening segment, we harken back to a simpler time where some landscape places give you a lot less leaf and a lot more pun. It's a whopper of a story where we ask the question, where's the leaf?
Southern Gardening is back in Vicksburg, Mississippi, visiting the beautiful landscape of Beatty Williams. Beatty has curated a lovely collection of deciduous plants. Let's take a look at a couple of standout selections. One of these is Virginia Sweetspire, a versatile native shrub that offers beauty in every season. Typically growing 3 to 5 feet tall and spreading 4 to 6 feet wide, it forms a rounded, mounding shape and spreads through suckers, making it ideal for naturalized areas or erosion control on slopes. In late spring to early summer, it bursts into fragrant white bottle brush style blooms that attract bees, butterflies, and other pollinators. Another highlight of Beatty's garden is Carrillo Indigo, a graceful deciduous shrub known for its fine texture and soft pink flowers. Growing 2 to 3 feet tall and wide, it forms a low, spreading mound with slender, arching stems. From late spring through summer, it produces clusters of rosy pink, pea-like flowers held above its airy fern-like foliage. These blooms draw in pollinators and add subtle elegance to the garden. These shrubs add soft color, fine texture, and visual interest to garden beds. I'm Eddie Smith, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Southern Gardening.
We'll take a break right here, but stick around. Coming up, another extraordinary encore episode of Extension Matters. It's a breathtaking view above ground of an amazing underwater partnership between MSU Extension and the Mississippi Aquarium, a spectacular showcase of the extreme wonders of the Gulf Coast. Visitors get up close and personal with creatures of the deep, the aquarium sparking their interest and curiosity. Diving deep, that's coming up on Farm Week. Don't go away.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith. I believe in my own work and in the opportunity I have to make my life useful to humanity. I believe that education is a lifelong process, and the greatest university is the home. That my success as a teacher is proportional to those qualities of mind and spirit that give me welcome entrance to the homes of the families that I serve. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith. I believe that education, of which extension work is an essential part, is basic in stimulating individual initiative, self-determination, and leadership. I believe that these are the keys to democracy, and that people, when given facts they understand, will act not only in their self-interest, but also in the interest of society. I believe in intellectual freedom to search for and present the truth without bias and with courteous tolerance towards the views of others. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
Time for the market report. Once again, a turnaround.
That's right, Mike. You know, 1 week prices close down, then the next week they're back up, and we'll get into it. But first, the numbers. What were the week's biggest gains and losses? And then some USDA reports giving us a closer look into broilers, dairy, and crop progress. And finally, what do the experts have to say about the current market moves? We'll find out. So, markets closed the week going back up. Row crops the only exception. Let's take a look. The week's biggest gain, live cattle up over 9.25 cents, a near 4.5% increase from the previous week. The week's biggest loss, sugar, down nearly 0.5 cents, an over 3.25% decrease from the previous week. Several USDA reports dropped recently, giving us a closer look into several industries, including livestock and row crops. On the livestock side, we're looking at broiler chickens and dairy products. And in row crops, the current crop progress report, which is looking quite encouraging so far. Bella Bingham has the details.
In the broiler hatchery report, some positive movement. Eggs and incubators up 1% through the month of May compared to last year. That amounts to about 252 million eggs. Average hatchability for chicks about 79%. Broiler-type chicks placed for meat production at 193 million, up 1% from last year as well. From January through May this year, cumulative placements are up 1% compared to last year. The dairy products report not so positive. Total output about 1.25 billion pounds, about 3% above April last year, but down about 0.5% from March this year. How does that break up? Italian-type cheese production 492 million pounds, American-type cheese production 492 million pounds, and butter production 216 million pounds. In addition, dry milk products, in comparison to April last year, also down. Non-fat dry milk by about 6%, while skim powder down 21%. Whey products looking better, dry whey down about 15%, lactose up 4%, and whey protein up 6.5%. Frozen products mostly down, both regular and low-fat ice cream down by about 2%, sherbet down about 7%, while frozen yogurt up by 5.5%. In the crop progress report, things are looking good so far. In the top 18 corn-producing states, 97% planted. That's 3% higher than this time last year. 87% emerged. That's 4% higher than last year and the same as the 4-year average. Condition very encouraging, with 95% reported fair to excellent. In the top 18 soybean-producing states, Mississippi included, 90% planted, which is 4% above last year and 2% higher than the 4-year average. 75% emerged, which is 7% higher than last year and 3% higher than the 4-year average. Condition also great, with 96% reported fair to excellent. Of the 15 highest cotton-producing states, Mississippi also included 76% planted, 3% lower than last year and 4% lower than the 4-year average. Squaring, which is when the flower buds begin to form on the plant, at 12%, which is 1% lower than last year, but the same as the 4-year average. Condition, like corn and beans, very positive, with 92% reported fair to excellent.
So, what are the experts talking about right now? Analyst Matt Bennett gives us a little inside baseball on the current situation from a trader's perspective, and much of it revolves around geopolitics, international trade, and current stocks.
You know, a week ago, Monday, you had the ratings come out for spring wheat, and it sure seemed like that 45% kind of shocked the trade. And it just seems like we've been able to build a little bit from here. Clearly, you know, Russia still has the cheapest wheat. The problem is, of course, there's a lot of concerns as to getting that wheat where it needs to go, you know, and so I feel like wheat was just beat down for so long. It took a little bit of good news to at least get a spark going. Are we going to gap higher over the weekend potentially? I don't know, but I know a lot of folks are saying, what if Russia retaliates over the weekend? It's definitely something that could happen, and so I'd be real cautious here, you know, is to think that this wheat market can't keep going higher, especially if this global conflict continues. Yeah, the corn and ethanol both, you know, that's the things that people have been talking about. I do think that it gives you at least something positive to talk about whenever it comes to trade, right? And so clearly exports this year have just been fantastic. The talk lately, I think, overall with exports, though, is what are we going to do this next year? You know, if Brazil's got a big crop, that's all there is to it. And that has been one of the things that's really been hard on July corn, in my opinion, is not necessarily, I mean, we're still fairly tight in the U.S. The problem is that you're going to have enough corn down there to be very competitive in the export market. So you've got to have some good news. Is it giving you some hope? Yes. I think that maybe as much as anything, whenever you look at, for instance, the bear spreading that's gone on this week, Deese being able to rally on the week is probably a function of some of this weather. And beans, yeah, I mean, obviously, if the corn market gets a little bit of spark, you would think beans would as well. The bean balance sheet's pretty tight. There's a lot that could be called into question there with the new crop balance sheet if we have issues with China. As far as new crop sales, we've been above that 1054 level, which was your spring average twice now. Can we go back above it? I mean, right now I'm in that 1070, 1080 level. If I'm going to step forward with more sales, I want to give it just a little bit of time as well. I don't want to say I'm bullish beans. It's just really tough to make a sale right here, again, if I'm underwater.
And that's it for a deeper look into the markets. Looks like row crops in good shape so far this year, while in livestock, we're still rebuilding. Mike?
Thanks, Zach. We tend to think of agriculture as happening on land, but needless to say, what happens in water is part of that picture too. In our feature today from producer Brian Utley, the encore story of a special partnership on the Mississippi coast that showcases just how much extension matters.
I've heard coastal Mississippi referred to as the secret coast, and I think that's very apropos. I think a lot of folks in Mississippi just haven't had a chance to think about the extreme wonders of the Gulf Coast as it pertains to Mississippi. But fortunately, we have a place like Mississippi Aquarium where people can come and really get a fantastic introduction.
The aquarium really was designed to showcase what we have right here in Mississippi. And being an indoor and outdoor facility, it really gives us the opportunity to showcase a wide variety of species. We like to focus on what's local, so whether it's freshwater fish that are found here in Mississippi that are highlighted in our freshwater river, or some of the saltwater species that you can see behind us. You know, we have a touch tank where the kids can get up close and personal and touch some of the creatures and some of the rays and sharks and anemones and urchins. You know, it's really fun to watch the kids do that, and to be able to showcase what we have behind us is really something special for the people on the coast and throughout the state.
It's been a very fast and tight relationship between Mississippi State University Extension and Mississippi Aquarium from day one. They reached out and wanted to know the types of things that we were doing on the coast, and they were immediately supportive of the types of work we were doing. Specifically, most of my work focuses on sharks and rays. So they reached out relatively early and was eager to support some of our shark tracking studies. And just during multiple conversations we had, it occurred to us collectively that there was a space that we could help fill. And that is just providing a simple, easy to understand, very clean guide to the sharks and rays that are not only here at the aquarium, but also off our coast of Mississippi.
It's really a great resource tool that, one, we pass it out to our staff to be more familiar with localized shark species, but we use it in our field trips, we use it in our outreach programs, we use it in our homeschool days when the homeschoolers come on campus to do field trips. It's kind of a curiosity thing, right? Because you want to see the differences of sharks, you want to see sizes, you want to see how they compare to the size of a human, or whatever it is that sparks the interest of people. It's just another nugget of an educational tool that we're able to share with people.
There are a lot of people that might say, well, I assume there's 1 or 2 or 3 species of sharks off our coast here, but it turns out there's a rich diversity of sharks and rays. We have a shark monitoring program that we've been operating for over 15 years now. So it's safe to say there's between 40 and 50 species of sharks right here in the north central Gulf of Mexico. I mean, and I think it's noteworthy to point out that some of these species we're just now learning about.
It gives a chance for kids and adults alike to really see what those species are, because we have a wide variety of species, and those are the ones that you normally don't see, right? Here's a chance where you can see what it looks like, you can actually touch it, and then we can actually educate you about it. So it is a tool that we find extremely helpful. It's very well done, and actually I think everybody's pretty proud of the outcome.
You know, when I think about the design of the aquarium, their actual logo with those 3 sails and the 3 pillars that they stand for, education, conservation, community, you could almost substitute extension for Mississippi Aquarium, because you think of the tenets of extension, they're very, very similar. Education, conservation, community. So it's really it's a very natural fit, it's a very easy fit, and I think that's why this partnership has flourished so early, and that's why I see us having this relationship, for the life of both of these institutes.
Extension has been a great resource to us because it really does put the collaborative process together with like-minded individuals, like-minded thinking, and we're all about forward thinking, and we want to make our coast better. And the way you do that is to go out and figure out what's happening on the coast and how can we influence either change by behavior or change in environments, make policy changes, but coming together is the only way to do that, by working together with people that really think like you, and Extension offers that to us.
Absolutely breathtaking. Well, next time on Farm Week, you've heard it before: one man's trash, another man's treasure.
Politics aside, climate change is a priority for many, and the door is opening wider to capitalize on opportunities like methane, a greenhouse gas that traps more heat in the atmosphere than CO2.
Ag waste is one source of methane used by one company to produce cheaper electricity, turning trash into power. Next time on Farm Week. Before we go, and this would really make an excellent Valentine's story, you might not think of farmers as creative, and you never know where love is going to show up.
Like maybe a wheat field in Kansas? Reporter Abby Ray spoke to one wheat farmer there who spent months creating a heartfelt message to his wife.
Jesse Blasey has been a wheat farmer in Pratt for more than 20 years.
And it's all the little things that make you happy. It's when the wheat comes out of the ground. It's when a baby calf is born.
And the only thing he loves more than farming is his wife and family. He met his wife Sarah at K-State, and they first met in a bar.
As we were both driving home, we saw each other at a stoplight.
and it was love at first stoplight. So, for their 20th wedding anniversary, he wanted to use his farming expertise to create a work of agricultural art to symbolize his love. This is the moment Sarah saw it from an aircraft just last week.
I knew it'd make her smile, and that was kind of the whole goal, was to get that little grin out of her that I like.
That's Jesse Blazy love. That's farmer love.
He was actually inspired by another, now famous, Pratt farmer.
So Lee Wilson planted a field of sunflowers for his wife, and I thought, man, that's a great idea. And so I've always wanted to do this pattern thing, and I'm like, okay, I could do that for Sarah. 20 years is coming up.
Jesse used advanced farming technology to do multi-variety prescription planting, using a John Deere air seeder to plant 2 different varieties of wheat in order to write this in his field.
There's actually 2 different varieties in the white color. It's a blend of 2. And then, like I say, this is just a red chaffed wheat.
Jesse began the planning process all the way back in October, creating this labor of love using more than 65 million red wheat seeds. The pair says they're blessed to be in love all of these years later, but it's the family they've created together they truly appreciate.
And even though I'm the farmer, she grows our best crop. Like, we got 2 girls, Reagan and Avery, and they are our best crop.
You should be able to see the wheat work of art until August or October of this year. But Jesse says it looks best from between 4,000 and 6,000 feet in the air.
Just him doing something like this just shows that it's just extra. It's just a little bit extra.
That's a lovely story, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. Takes a lot of talent to plant like that.
Agreed. Remember, if you missed a story, look for past episodes of Farm Week on our website at farmweek.tv.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. See you next week. Thanks for watching.